Hopefully the kids aren't too loud outside. They are playing with our neighbor who is their age, and hopefully they're not too loud that it'll ruin this video. But I had to keep the window open because they're playing and their mom's watching them, but I just want to make sure no one dies on the trampoline. So today, this is our second video on our Fancy Forest by Elizabeth Hartman. Obviously she makes beautiful patterns. I am simultaneously collecting. She has a honeycomb bee pattern, which is beautiful. So I'm collecting slowly but surely as I go to the fabric stores to get fabric for this and get different supplies for this quilt. I am collecting yellows and oranges and all different for that honeycomb quilt. That will be my second quilt, but let's get through this one first because this is the end all be all. This is a very hardcore quilt. Now, it's a simple-ish pattern, and then you just arrange it in different ways. So you have 4 giant blocks, which make her large quilt. I'm making the large quilt, not the small quilt, although the small quilt would be perfect if you're having someone who's having a baby or something like that. We cut out the rabbits already. That took about 5 or 6 hours. I did it in different increments so I didn't kill my back because I have a bad back. But we're working on the thistles now. Yay! So, next thing, thistles are only 2 colors, so I recommend doing something with a pattern and then something a little bit more subdued. Maybe not a full solid, but maybe just like polka dots or a subtle pattern to it. I wouldn't go crazy with the color schemes here because they're plants, they're thistles, and you want to go a little crazier with the butterflies and owls, so these should be more subdued in the background. The rabbits were on the more solid side. I don't think I might have had one that had a little bit of a pattern, like crazy pattern to it, but the rest were pretty subdued. The foxes are only 1 color, so you can get a little crazier with them. And the hedgehogs seem to be 1 solid, 1 kind of crazy with their spiky things. So, we're going to do the thistles today. Let's get into it. I don't know if you can see, but this is not only just like red with the lighter red polka dots. If you look out a little, it gets darker in certain areas. That's not just from me ironing, that's the fabric. So it has a lot of different color textures to it. I'm kind of in love with this right now. So I have my yellows I just ironed. They're nice and smooth. That's probably my worst part about quilting is ironing. I freaking hate ironing. I got my oranges. I got my thistle pattern. I cut out 1 last night while I was just waiting for Kevin to come home before I went to Maggie's house to hang out for the night. And they go super quick and you barely need anything. So I would recommend for the top of the thistle just using scrap. Don't waste a full fat quarter on it if you've got scraps. This part is barely anything. This part is not much. You just need a long, skinny piece of fabric. And then I believe these are 3 inches tall by 3/4, so about 4 inches by 4 inches. So honestly, if you're going to use scrap in any part of this quilt, the thistle block is a great part to use your scraps up. It's fantastic. So the gray is the gray, but the other part, totally use all your scraps. And let's get going. Working on the thistles, and I just wanted to show you my setup and everything that I need. I have all the fabric I need. I've already color coded it, and that's all I need to do the thistles. I got my cup of tea, my marker, and my cutting tool. I have this very large measuring device, but I just found this when I dug this out, and this is very helpful. It's good to have a large one, but sometimes I'm constantly having to move it and get it out of the way, so I have a smaller one. These come in all different sizes and shapes, and I guess depending on what quilt you're working on, that all depends. Got a cutting mat, got my directions, and to keep me busy and occupied, I've got YouTube on. I'm watching Trent and Allie's new video. We have a bus conversion, so I watch a lot of van conversion, bus conversion videos. It gives me something to do. I'm the kind of person I have to do like 36 things at one time, so I can't just do this and pay attention. I have to have something going on, either music in the background or what have you. But I spent all day cleaning yesterday, so I listened to enough music. Got to catch up on my YouTube stories. Kevin calls them my stories because I get really involved, and he's like, hey, let's watch Game of Thrones. I was like, oh, got my YouTube stories. So let's get on these thistles. All right, so I just finished all the colors for the thistle. The thistle, say that 3 times fast. The thistle is actually pretty easy to cut once you get going. I haven't done the gray yet, but it's still time consuming. You're still measuring, and it's several different colors. The thistle only uses 2 colors, but I have them all in baggies here. Super excited. I picked really fun fabric. Oh, I don't have any here, but if you've ever seen the jellyfish with Tallulah pink, I got to use that. And this other, I believe this is Tallulah pink as well with the jelly. It has whales, seashells, some coral, and yeah, it's nautical. So these are all done. Look at these great colors. So the thistle is done. I'm going to stop today and do the gray another day. I'm going to write down how long each of these are going to take, and then how long, like cutting, and then at the end of the video I'm going to let you know how many man hours it took to cut all of this fabric for this quilt. So hopefully that'll be helpful and give you an idea. Again, I am new at this, so if you've been doing quilts for a while, it might take you a little less, but I think anyone measuring and cutting, it's going to take the same amount of time. You might be a little quicker than me. Also, I watch YouTube videos while I do this and catch up on my stories, and so I learned how to today just by cutting. I've been all through South America. I watched someone get their 1,000,000 mark on YouTube, which is awesome. I know that lady. She's amazing. Design on a Dime, and she goes to dollar store. She makes cute little things and organizational things. So I'll put her link down below. I already told you about Trent and Allie and Nomadic Movement are going through South America. So I've been watching their stories. That's really interesting. One has a YMCA short school bus. The other one has a van conversion, and they are going through South America this summer. Every other day, the other channel puts out a video. So every day you're getting a video, which is awesome. I watched some Philip DeFranco, caught up on all my news for like the month, and I learned some homesteading websites and learned how to start my own shiitake mushrooms. So I got all that quilt cutting done, and I learned all of that knowledge. Also, you can listen to Audible. That's a really good one. Or any kind of books on tape, or just listen to music. And you're doing 2 things at once, and all that knowledge and all this stuff is getting done. So. All of these things alone are so beautiful. So if you're really nervous, or this is one of your beginning quilts, a good idea is to make a table runner or a small pillow for a child, or something, you know, smaller, teeny tiny. So when you're cutting out your 8 pieces for the quilt, you might just want to cut out 9 or maybe even 10, and then you can the first 2 that you do could be like a practice run so that the quilt is absolutely perfect. Then you can use that for a small little kid's pillow to throw on the bed, or for them to have like a keepsake. if you're like an aunt or a mom or even a grandmother. Or you could do like 3 or 4 and do a little table runner as just like a starter piece so that you feel comfortable reading her directions and getting it down pat. So your quilt is absolutely stunning. Starting off with the thistle, because out of the bunny, the thistle, and the hedgehog, I felt like there was only 2 colors in the thistle and that was the easiest. So I'm going to start with the easiest. Read these directions over and over and over again. It's a lot of work cutting all these out, and you don't want to have to make a silly mistake and then have to redo it. The great thing is she has all these diagrams. So I just read it about 3 times. I feel sufficient doing it. This is the top of the thistle. I think I did an okay job. I'm guessing when I'm done with everything, I'll come in here and trim to make this a complete rectangle. I'm guessing that's what I'm gonna doing. This is my first attempt. It's a little wonky right there, but these guys match up pretty well. So flowers are not perfect, but I love this swirl texture and fabric. The thing about doing this is I put my ironing table right behind me, so I literally just, but it's a lot of getting up, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So don't have like coffee or tea out. You don't want to spill. Have a little bowl on the side for all your cuttings and trimmings and little extra things. And just have your iron ready to go. That's about it. I'm going to bust out another 7 of these and the stems, and we're good to go. I think I'm going to do all the flower part and then go into all the stem part. I don't want to jump back and forth and be like, oh, did I do this wrong? It's just a lot of, you just have to get it right and precise. That's just with quilting in general. So I'm just going to bust out all the flowers and then bust out all the stems, sew them together. And I like to do the same thing. I do the same thing in knitting. If I get a knitting pattern, I make it once. I kind of work out all the kinks and know what I have to do. So then I'll just like knit like 5 more of whatever I'm knitting. And then I'll put it in a bin if I don't have specific people it's going to for like presents and things like that. Because if I'm going to sit there and take the time to figure out a pattern and do it, I'm just going to do it a bunch in one time. Not like a year from now, have to go back and someone's like, oh, I like your scarf. Can I get one? And then I'm going to have to knit another one. And I'm going to have to learn the pattern all over again because I've done 16 different projects in that time frame of a year. So I'm obviously just doing one quilt, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to just bust out all the flowers right now. In a week, so I have a kindergartner and a first grader. They're about to move up, and we had to stop and do graduations, end of the year parties, all this stuff. I'm trying to get as much sewing done as possible because you know when summer starts, I'm gonna be mini golfing and every 5 seconds asking to have to get up and get food and all sorts of things. I have 2 little boys, so they continuously ask me every 2 seconds, oh, can I have something to eat? Can I have something to eat? So I know I'm going to be interrupted a lot, so I'm trying to get as much done as possible. I finished all of the tops of the thistles, and today I'm doing the stem in the bottom half. So in my cutting everything, I just realized when I got the bags out that I was supposed to have 4 of something of this gray, and I had 2, so I had to go back and recut. That's why it's important to follow directions, follow directions, follow directions, and use, it's around here somewhere. I have a sticky note, so under here just use a sticky note so you can mask off what you're working on. It can get super complicated. Obviously, I apparently was not paying attention enough, so I had to go back and cut. So I got my first one done. Come take a look. I'm working on the orange one right now in the process. Bam! How fun is that? I feel super accomplished. So measurements wise, I had to do a lot of trimming, or like something was a little tilted. So hopefully in the end they're close enough, or what they're supposed to be. If not, I'm gonna have to add a little bit, what have you. But first one down, 8 more to go. Okay, this is what I got so far. I did these 3 in kind of one sitting. I did these 2 yesterday. I'm not knowing if I like this, but honestly, when it goes into everything else, it could get lost. I think maybe that was just a little too busy, but it is what it is. It's beautiful material, so maybe people just love looking at it. And it's supposed to be like a bluish green, so that was like, I don't know, when I was laying it all out, it looked like perfect material. I love this combination. I really didn't like this fabric so much, but I think it really works with that and going way more earthy. I had a little jack up here, and it was mostly the material. I don't know. So hopefully I might not have to redo this one. I'll see when I get them all done. It's a little wonky towards the bottom. The tip of the day is just constantly evening it out. I obviously did better with these. They're a little bit more precise. This one's like crazy precise compared to these, but you just have to even them out if there's, and make sure it is a rectangle by the end of it. And then if later on, once I start putting the quilt together, if I had a little gray, I have to add little grays on the side or whatever to make it as wide as it should be, then I'm just gonna have to do that. But you would rather have it straight. You want a perfect T here. You don't want it all wonky. I mean, flowers are natural, but you're gonna have to piece this all together. So make sure it is straight, and you're constantly cutting and trimming and making sure it's straight line. So the thistles are complete, and thank God, because I'm so sick of ironing. The kids, it was their last day of school today, so I don't know when I'll be getting back to the swing of things and have the opportunity to quilt again. Of course, I'm going to make it happen, but probably the next couple of days over the weekend. We have people visiting and things like that, and then, we got to get in the swing of summer and all that. To make a video on each animal that's in the quilt. When I put it together, I saw that I had so much footage, so I think I'm going to do that if at all possible, and that might help you if you're making your own quilt. So just follow along with me. I'm doing other sewing projects. I just found out that my cousin's having a little girl. So excited. I had 2 boys, so I couldn't sew them really any clothes or anything like that. Because little boys, they just rip through stuff, and they don't have the cute little outfits that girls have. So I went to Hobby Lobby today, and I got some really cute new patterns for little girls' clothes. So I'm so excited. So come along with me, and we'll do some more sewing together.